Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation on this last Sunday in June. Can you believe it? Halfway through the year. Time goes by so quickly. Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation is a welcoming community. We have a theology of welcoming. The Universalist part of Universalism, Unitarian Universalism, originated in a Christian theology that rejected the idea that only those people who had been baptized or had accepted Christ as their Savior were not saved. Universalism, as a theology, says that we are all saved. Or possibly it says that there's nothing that we need to be saved from. There is also a humanist aspect of our universalism that applies the application of reason and existentialist inquiry to come to the conclusion that all humans deserve respect. So in Unitarian Universalism, there is no guilt or shame or regret for being simply human. So whatever your background is, whatever your economic background is, whether you are young or old or gay or straight, whether you are transgender or cisgender, you are welcome here. We often welcome visitors. If there are any visitors here for the first time who'd like to take that brave step of waving their hand or standing, we'd like to have a chance to recognize you. Welcome, everyone. All regulars today. Good, good. Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation offers pastoral care. Today might be a situation where you might be reminded of some things that you might need some counseling or assistance or just a friendly person to discuss with. Today, Joyce Donahue, waving her hand right here, is in the sanctuary for pastoral care. And Claudette Wasil is online. For those of you who are online, if you would like to contact Claudette by putting a comment in the chat, Claudette will reach out to you for pastoral care. We also have a group called Caring Neighbors. And if any of you have any need that our community can fulfill, if you would like, again, a listening ear, or if you have any need for assistance, you can contact Caring Neighbors at VUU.org. We'll now light the chalice.
Please join me in the chalice lighting words. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice.
Today's sermon, Melissa Bush, our friend to so many here, is giving her a sermon on grief, and Melissa has an amazing background to give that sermon, having worked as a PA for Hospice of the Valley for years. She has had experience with grief in her profession, but like all of us, has had experience in grief in her personal life also. So as our invitation to worship, I wanted to read some words by the author Joan Didion in her book, The Year of Magical Thinking. Joan Didion is an amazing writer, and she wrote in the book, which was about the death of her husband, which was very sudden, and the simultaneous life challenge for her daughter. Joan Didion wrote, "Life changes in the instant, the ordinary instant. Grief turns out to be a place none of us know until we reach it. We anticipate, we know that someone close to us could die, but we do not look beyond the few days or weeks that immediately follow such an imagined death. We don't expect the shock to be obliterative, dislocating to body and mind. We do not expect to be literally crazy, cool customers who believe their husband is about to return and need his shoes. We are imperfect moral beings, aware of that mortality even as we push it away, failed by our very complication, so wired that when we mourn our losses, we also mourn, for better or worse, ourselves, as we were, as we are no longer, as we will one day not be at all. And now our music leader, Linda Muth, with our accompanist, Linda Horton, will lead us in our opening hymn.
Our opening hymn is in the gray hymnal if you have it, but the words will be up here. Number 6, called Just As Long As I Have Breath. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I may die away, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love. Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. My name is Kelsey McIntyre. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the temporary acting director of Faith Formation. I'd like to invite any children in the audience to join me up front for our Time for All Ages. And if you happen to have a contribution for our children's collection, I do have my beautiful chalice up front. So you guys might have heard the adults are going to be talking about grief today. I know that's kind of a big word. So I wanted to read you guys this book. That's one of my favorite books ever. And it's about different kinds of grief. There's grief of when your life changes, kind of mourning that old life and accepting and moving on to a new life. And then there's also the grief of dying and moving on and people having to move on without you. It's called The Fantastic Flying Books of Mr. Morris Lesmore. Morris Lesmore loved words. He loved stories. He loved books. His life was a book of his own writing, one orderly page after another. He would open it every morning and write of his joys and his sorrows, of all that he knew and everything he hoped for. But every story has its upsets. One day the sky darkened, the winds blew and blew. till everything Morris knew was scattered, even the words of his own book. He didn't know what to do or which way to go, so he began to wander and wander. Then a happy bit of happenstance came his way. Rather than looking down, as had become his habit, Morris Lesmore looked up. Drifting through the sky above him, he saw a lovely lady. She was being pulled along by a festive squadron of flying books. Morris wondered if his book could fly, but it couldn't. It would only fall to the ground with a depressing thud. The flying lady knew Morris simply needed a good story, so she sent him her favorite. The book was an amiable fellow and urged Morris to follow him. The book led him to an extraordinary building where many books apparently nested. Morris slowly walked inside and discovered the most mysterious and inviting room he had ever seen. It was filled with the fluttering of countless pages, and Morris could hear the faint chatter of 1,000 different stories, as if each book was whispering an invitation to adventure. Then his new friend flew up to him and landed on his arm. It held itself open, as if hoping to be read. The room rustled to life, and so Morris's life among the books began. Morris found great satisfaction in caring for the books, gently fixing those with fragile bindings and unfolding the dog-eared pages of others. Sometimes he would become lost in a book and scarcely emerge for days. Morris liked to share the books with others. Everyone's story matters, said Morris, and the books agreed. At night, Morris Lesmore would once again write in his own book. He wrote of his joys and sorrows, of all that he knew and everything that he hoped for. The days passed, so did the months, and then years and years. And Morris Lesmore became stooped and crinkly, but the books never changed. Their stories remained the same. Now his friends took care of him, and they read themselves to him every night. Then one day he filled the last page in his book. He looked up and said with a bittersweet sigh, "I guess it's time for me to move on." Sorry, this book always makes me cry. The books were sorry, but they understood. As Morris went to the door, he turned around. "I'll carry you all in here," he said, pointing to his heart. The books waved their pages, and Morris Lesmore flew away. As he flew, he changed back to the way he'd been that long ago day when they'd all first met. The books were quiet for a while. Then they noticed that Morris Lesmore had left something behind. "It's his book," said his oldest friend. Inside was Morris's story, all of his joys and sorrows, all that he knew and everything that he hoped for. Then the books heard a small sound. There in the doorway was a little girl. She looked around in wonder. Then something fantastic happened. Morris Lesmore's book flew up to her and opened its pages. The girl began to read, and so our story ends as it began, with the opening of a book. If everyone would please rise to form our bridge of love, we will sing the children out. Thank you.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of all surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of all surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Thank you to Kelsey for that beautiful story. It's always such a joy to have the young people in our congregation. As I mentioned, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Joel Sanis. I'm the worship associate for today's service, and I use he, him pronouns. Now is our time for centering, and I feel like I should warn you all that this is going to be a heavy service because it's about grief. So in order to get ready for the service, I think it's important that we take a moment to center ourselves. If you could get yourself into a comfortable position. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, please close your eyes. If you prefer to keep them open, that's fine as well. Feel yourself in the chair underneath you. Feel the connection of the chair to the floor, to the earth. Listen to your body. What is it telling you? Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. If you can still your mind, try to still your mind. If you can't still your mind, just recognize the thoughts that you are having and know that those thoughts are transient. Like clouds in a sky, they will pass. Think about the people in your life that you care about, those that are still with us and those that you have lost. Just take a moment to breathe. We're going to go into our centering music. There is a love. We have rituals for lighting candles and moving stones and fountains while we're going through our centering music. For those of you who'd like to move a stone or light a candle in memory of someone that you have lost, perhaps, or only to prepare yourself for today's service, please feel free to do so.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love.
So, like me, does anybody ever ask themselves, why do I come here? I mean, there's so many, all of us have so many other things that we do for enjoyment in our life, for spiritual fulfillment in our lives. Instead of coming to a congregational service on a Sunday morning, you could sleep in. You might go to brunch. A lot of you love to hike. I love to hike, and you could leave early in the morning and go for a hike. You could go to a museum. You could stay home and prepare a dinner that you're going to eat later in the day. We are, as we sit here today, we are a minority, and that minority is people who regularly go to services. We come on a Sunday, other faiths come on different days, but the number of people who go to services regularly has been in steep decline over the years. One of the reasons that we come together on a Sunday is because of community. And one of the benefits of community is we get to grieve together and learn how to grieve. In the time I've been here, which is a long time now, about 20 years or so, we've had foundational members who have passed away. I remember Betty Nearing and Bill Woods, Charlotte Ward, Mary Lou Coy, and Debbie Dinius. There are so many others that I could mention. Nancy Erickson and Roy Erickson. Just this year, we've lost Elizabeth Chain and Rachel Smith, and Gary Klepser recently passed away. As a community, we have grieved these losses together. We have also had members and friends who have lost their loved ones, sometimes suddenly, and we have shared their grief. But from sharing their grief, we have also seen the way through grief. They have faced grief together with us, and we have done it communally, which is why, one of the reasons why we commit to each other year after year, week after week, Sunday after Sunday, to come together in a community to learn lessons for ourselves about how we will deal with grief when the time for grief comes to us. And we do that as a congregation in our search for truth, beauty, and goodness together.
There is a love.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love.
Good morning. I tend to be loud, so if I'm too much, sort of do that. And if I'm back here and you can't hear me, please do that. Okay. So I'll try to be in the middle. And if I'm too loud, I'm sorry. So my name is Melissa Bush, and I am actually a nurse practitioner, but that's okay. I'm a longtime member here, and my sermon today is called Sisters of Soul, Love, Grief, and Gratitude. And I will probably get teary, and I will not apologize for that. And I will do my best to make it so you can hear me. I don't want to dissolve, and so I will do my best. And I'm so grateful to see you all today. I was able to hug so many of you when you came in, and this is my place. And when I'm through today, I would love it if we'd maintain this kind of breathing, sacred silence with each other. And that would help me, and I think would help all of us. So, as I said, I'm Melissa Bush, and a longtime member here at Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name tag says October 1993, so it's been a minute. And I am a lay pastoral care associate as well as a member, and so I'm an listening ear for people who need it, and I cherish that work. And I've worked as a hospice nurse practitioner now for Hospice of the Valley for almost 15 years. When I tell people what I do, they get this grave look on their face, and they say, "Oh, how do you do such work?" Or often they don't know what to say. It makes for a very short conversation. When Barbara Face, one of our beautiful members who rode here on her bike today, when Barbara Face first asked me to do a service about grief, I thought, oh boy, that'll be fun. People will be breaking down the doors to get in. The truth is that I'm a bit uncomfortable talking about it with you. My aversion comes from our cultural taboos. We don't want people to tell us how they are feeling in their grief because we don't want to feel our own. We don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. When we come across someone in the depths of grief, we worry that maybe they're grieving too long or too much, whatever that means. We are afraid to share our grief with each other because we don't get taught how to do it. I didn't learn about it in school, or really at home, and I imagine most of you didn't either. So, just for being here, you all get extra credit for listening to a talk about grief, loss, and sadness, and gratitude and love. Love, grief, and gratitude are soul sisters, as Francis Weller writes in his brilliant book. I highly recommend it. The Wild Edge of Sorrow, Rituals of Renewal, and the Sacred Work of Grief. He writes, grief and love are sisters, woven together from the beginning. Their kinship reminds us that there is no love that does not contain loss, and no loss that is not a reminder of the love we carry for what we once held close. And Weller continues, grief helps us stay closely related to that other face of this mystery, which is gratitude. There is tension between these two sisters, grief and gratitude. The word grief comes from the Latin word gravis, meaning heavy. You can sense the weight of it from the word itself. Related words include grave, gravity, and gravid. In hospice, we speak of someone who is gravely ill. When we say someone has gravitas, we are referring to the quality of dignity, seriousness, or solemnity of someone's manner. Entering a space of grief is difficult, I know. Our response may be to run away, to turn and say, "Hell no, I'm not going there." But doesn't that cheapen the experience? Dishonor the very thing we mourn? Disconnect us from our friends and loved ones, from ourselves? I recently posted on my Facebook page that I was declaring a moratorium on anyone dying in my life for 1 year. Yeah, it didn't work out so well. This was after I had experienced the death of 3 friends, one each in the months of November, December, and January. And just recently, a dear friend from nursing school, just a year older than me, died after what his obituary stated was a short illness. Wait! What? How can this be? Tell me it is not so. I texted other friends from nursing school. No one knew what had happened. I wanted to know what caused his death, as if knowing could stop the grief from coming or lessen its severity. Of course, this is nonsense, a trick of my mind. I am realizing more and more that to lean into grief is the only way through. Disbelieving is grieving for ourselves and others. Buddhist nun Pema Chodron, one of my favorites, speaks to this. She writes, "Seeing your fear can heighten the sense of gratitude for the preciousness of human birth and the opportunity to practice." Remember the movie Wall Street? Gordon Gekko, the protagonist, has this memorable line, "Greed, for lack of a better word, is good." Well, I have a riff on that. Grief, for lack of a better word, sucks. And yet, it is inseparable from us and our lives. My friend Judy died on January 18th of metastatic breast cancer. She had the BRCA gene, just like her sister, who died 5 years before. Her grandmother died from breast cancer. Her mother is still living with breast cancer and now has dementia. Judy and I had been friends since kindergarten. There were 4 of us, still friends all these years later, that went to kindergarten together. Daryl, Sue, Judy, and me. I had lost touch with Judy for a long time in our middle years. She moved around a lot for her husband's work. Then Sue, ever the connector, got us in touch again about 5 years ago. Jude had moved to Arizona for her kids to stay at the same high school after moving around so much. I was privileged to be with her for the last 5 years of her cancer journey. We went out for wine at happy hour, ate good food, laughed a lot. And she referred to her cancer as her SH blank T show, although she really said the word a lot. As her husband tells it, in language used by some, but certainly not all, cancer sufferers, Judy's a fighter. She did all the treatments available for 10 years. 10 years. She had her reasons. 2 kids that were teenagers when she was diagnosed. There is the love. I remember visiting her in the hospital 18 months before she died. She had abdominal pain, went to the ER. They took her to surgery. When they opened her up, her doctor would tell her later, there was cancer everywhere. I thought about just closing you up, but I did what I could to remove as much as possible. More of you know what, she said, my you know what show. There is the grief. Last summer, Judy started to fall. She had trouble remembering things. Brain MRI showed 11 tumors. The chemotherapy was not working. They tried another agent, then whole brain radiation, to no avail. She managed to see her eldest child, her only daughter, get married in November, just after her whole brain radiation, though it really took her down. I could see she was ailing. 10 years to be a fighter is a long time. I visited her at home just after her daughter was wed. She told me, I don't want to die like my sister. I asked her what that meant. She said, she died in the hospital in terrible, horrible pain. It was awful. But I don't want to die at home either because of the kids. I think it will be hard for them when I am gone if I die in the house. She asked me for direction. You need a plan, I told her. There is a way to not be in pain, to not die in your house. You can choose hospice. Hospice of the Valley has inpatient units you can go to at the end of life, like a hospital with nurses there 24/7, and they can manage pain and other symptoms. To which Judy replied, do you know anybody who works for hospice? Oh, my dear friend, actually I do. Me. I took her to Lund Home, one of our inpatient units, 6 weeks before she died. I encouraged her to have her husband and kids come with us. They declined. Her kids were angry with me. They were not ready. Disbelieving is grieving. I helped Jude from my car into the wheelchair provided by Lund and entered the home. Cozy fire in the living room fireplace. The aroma of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. The hushed tones of loved ones, leaving the noise of the street outside. There is the love. We had a tour of room 8, which was empty at the time. Its single bed, all made, double doors to the outdoor patio, and the moonlit night. the fresh scent of lavender in the private bath, a comfy reclining chair, soothing music and images on the flat screen. We met several staff members, all equally lovely. We ate those cookies. Judy liked it, said she felt comfortable there. There is the gratitude. Returning to her house, her husband was mad. He had expected us to be home sooner. He was waiting dinner, even though she had eaten before she left and had those cookies at Lund. The steroids made her really hungry. He told me, "You're not the boss of me." I was blindsided at first. I had not expected that. Yet I knew it wasn't about me. It was his grief speaking. He was not ready. Disbelieving his grieving. I assured him that I knew I was not the boss and apologized if that's how it came across to him. "We need to work together," he said. I assured him that I understood that. Of course, I would work with him. I was on notice. And I felt strongly about honoring Judy and what she was asking of me. I gave her the number for Hospice of the Valley. She called, and a nurse came out. She had not yet decided to stop cancer treatment. The next step was targeted brain radiation. She interviewed the hospice, and because she might pursue more treatment, they did not enroll her then. Hospice is for when you're done with treatments, tests, and procedures, when you want to be kept comfortable. Her husband didn't like the hospice nurse. Sigh. More grieving. Knowing that time was short, at my behest, Sue and Daryl flew out from New York at the end of November, just after Thanksgiving. The three of us stayed in a hotel room together for a few days and reminisced. They said they were shocked at how frail Judy looked. We all went over to Judy's house and made food to have in her freezer. We sat by the fire pit in the backyard with dog Leo, enjoying each other's company. Sue helped Judy write out a list of questions for her upcoming oncology visit. There was laughter and tears and a lot of I love yous. On her way to her oncologist's office the following week, she realized the burden of treatment was too much. She was not enjoying her life anymore. She had made it through her daughter's wedding in November and her son's college graduation in December. She was ready. Then she fell at home in the middle of the night. There was blood on the carpet when her husband woke up, hearing her in the hall. She had no idea how the blood got there. He looked at the back of her head, and it was obvious to him what had occurred. He feared for her safety. It was time to utilize Lund Home. She had a few good days initially at Lund. They made her endless grilled cheese sandwiches. She ate numerous chocolate chip cookies. I got her peanut M&Ms, her favorite, from the vending. Her dog, Leo, stayed with her almost day and night on that bed. She had numerous friends in attendance coming and going. I asked our chaplain, Bob, to come to Lund and say a prayer for her. She was a Christian, and that was a comfort to her and her husband. Bob was a comfort to me. There is the love and the gratitude. Jude died in room 8 with Leo at her feet and her husband nearby. Her kids were there. It was a peaceful death, fulfilling her wish. I was grateful for her trust in me to guide her through the process. Her husband said he was grateful she had been attended to in a safe place. He was finally able to go home and get some sleep. I attended Judy's memorial service, accompanied by my faithful husband, Leonard, such a comfort to me. On a bright but windy Friday at the beginning of February, walking into the memorial space, filled with pictures of Judy and many friends and family, I was greeted by Judy's husband, her daughter and son. I was nervous, wondering how things were between us. They each gave me a hug and told me they were glad to see me. I believe they were sincere. Some healing had taken place. There is the gratitude. There were about 50 people in attendance, some of whom had come from our hometown of Rochester, New York. This included Judy's younger brother, Kenny. I had not seen Kenny since we were kids, so I did not know who he was until he got up to speak. After the eulogies were done, there was time for food. I introduced myself to Kenny, telling him it was okay if he didn't remember me, that we hadn't seen each other in decades. I told him Judy often spoke fondly of him and his ability to make her laugh. She did, he said, with much surprise. Then he gasped, and his eyes got wide, and he said, "Oh, you're the hospice nurse." I braced myself, knowing that he had learned that from her husband and her kids. "Thank you so much for helping Judy get into hospice," Kenny said. "It was just what she needed. You are an angel on earth." There is the love, along with the grief and the gratitude, all mixed together. My soul sisters. Less than 2 weeks later, on the heels of my experience with Judy, I co-facilitated a grief support group here at VUU. Sorry, I can't see through my tears. I didn't realize how much I would need a place to speak my grief around Judy's death. The group consisted of 7 brave and courageous souls who signed up for a 7-week commitment to meet for 90-minute sessions. We made a covenant. We made a safe container. We shared our deepest griefs, some of which had been unspoken for years. We cried. We used the F word quite a bit. and we laughed. The group consensus was it was so helpful to speak of our personal grief and to have it held tenderly. It was transformative. Just prior to forming the grief support group, I found a book in our hospice library entitled Living with Grief, at Work, at School, at Worship. I thought, ooh, I gotta read that. Edited by Joyce Davidson and Kenneth Doka. I want to share the words in the first paragraph. Quote, "One of the major problems with grief and bereavement is that so little information about the process of grief is widely disseminated. This seems strange for two reasons. First, there is much information that has been learned and studied throughout the last 30 years. And second, and even more basic, loss and transition are natural human processes existent from the beginning of time. Certainly, information about grief and loss should be widely known, an inherent part of folk wisdom. Yet, this does not seem to be the case." Unquote. After I read that, I thought, wow, this guy really knows how things are these days. And then I went to the back of the title page and looked at the date, the copyright date, 1999. So in 25 years, we have not moved the needle very much. That leads me to want to explore this topic more and bring more people along with me. And where better to do that than in community? A community like Valley Unitarian Universalist congregation, where we love to think deeply and argue about issues and dig into them. I invite you to join me in deepening our souls with love, grief, and gratitude. In a month's time, I will be traveling to upstate New York to nurture my soul. To nurture my soul with my kindergarten friends, my sisters, Daryl and Sue. We will convene at Sue's lake home on Seneca Lake, something all four of us did for several years, despite Judy's serious illness. We will sit listening to the water, lapping at the dock, feel the summer breeze, see the martins at the feeder. We will once again eat comfort food. Daryl makes a great pepperoni pizza with her homegrown garlic. We will laugh and we will cry. We will listen to our favorite songs from long ago, and we will dance. We will deepen our soul connection. Our love, grief, and gratitude will be in evidence, the three of us now, with our fond memories. I want to leave you with this quote from The Wild Edge of Sorrow. To be human is to know loss in its many forms. This should not be seen as a depressing truth. Acknowledging this reality enables us to find our way into the grace that lies hidden in sorrow. We are most alive at the threshold between loss and revelation. Every loss ultimately opens the way for a new encounter. May it be so, and blessed be.
Thank you, Melissa. That was amazing, as I thought it would be. We're going to do the offering now. As you know, Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation is a democratic, purely democratic institution. We found that out a few weeks ago when we had our annual meeting. And we're a self-sustaining congregation as well. We appreciate your generosity in your pledges and in your donations. If the ushers could please come forward with the offering.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down, sinking down, when I was sinking down beneath my sorrow's ground, friends to me gathered round, oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to me gathered round, oh my soul. To love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend, with thanks unto the end, I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end, I will sing.
So we're going to have closing words, and then we'll have our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home. Melissa, for the closing words.
The closing words are from Merritt Malloy. It's a poem called Epitaph. When I die, give what's left of me to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. When you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not on your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die. People do. So that when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I'll see you at home in the earth. Amen.
We are going to sing Blue Boat Home. Please rise in body or spirit and sing with us.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my tried heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I by the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep. Drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, and the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me. Sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the heavens, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat
Thank you, Lynn and Linda, for the beautiful music today. We will now extinguish the chalice together.
There we go. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Go in peace.